a pitch that will have to be agreed to by the Linda Fire Protection District Board of Directors. Can I ask now, has this been socialized with the board, with the Linda Fire Protection District Board?
No, sir, not as of yet. I just wanted to.
So we're negotiating.
I was waiting for this body to make a decision or make a proposal that the board of directors can look at and review.
So it hasn't been socialized with them at all?
The initial MOU was the one that we originally brought to the city council, but this version has not as of yet.
Okay. It's disappointing. Okay. Mr. Shad.
Okay. I start off with stating what the objective is. The objective of the annexation was to improve long-term delivery of fire protection services, enhance operational efficiency, strengthen emergency response capabilities, and provide sustainable fire service funding for residents and businesses. That process has already been going on for a couple of years, maybe 3, and it started when we enlisted the services of the Linda Fire Protection District Chief. From a staff perspective, we believe that the agreement presented today represents a fair and balanced allocation of responsibilities, assets, liabilities, revenues, and future obligations between the two agencies. In short, I think it's a fair deal. So why does staff recommend this approval? First of all, it supports the overall objective of regionalized fire service delivery. It provides operational certainty for the July 1 transition date based on the annexation proceedings. It fairly allocates assets, liabilities, revenues, and future obligations. Protects the financial interest of both agencies. It provides a framework for long-term service deliverability or service sustainability, and it implements previously approved annexation. The next thing I wanted to go through was just a timeline of the events. Annexation is not a new topic to council. It's been in front of council, I believe, 4 times, possibly 5. But this process started way back in October of 2022. And that is when we worked with the district and came to an agreement that we would share a fire chief, which improved our city's bottom line and provided an excellent chief for our operation. I would argue that this has been a very, very good venture for the city of Marysville. On March 4th of 2025, quite a few years later, we were preparing for annexation. We had felt there was enough success with sharing a fire chief that annexation was the next step, and that was socialized with council over several years. On the 4th, we offered and scheduled meetings with individual council members regarding the feasibility details. On March 18th, we brought the feasibility study to council, and it was accepted by council. There was a question as to why we did not put this on discussion, and it was put on consent. I do not make that decision as to whether the item goes on consent or discussion. Staff was prepared to discuss that item in detail, and both the fire chief and our consultant was there to make that presentation if needed. June 17th, the next step, City Council adopted a resolution initiating the annexation process. Shortly thereafter, on July 15th, the tax sharing agreement was approved by City Council. And then a few months later, on September 24th, 2025, LAFCO approved the annexation. It was certified on November 24th, 2025. That brings us to today's date, where we are bringing a consideration of both an amendment to the tax sharing agreement based on the error that was found and an implementation MOU. That is all in preparation of the anticipated operational transfer of fire service on July 1st. I do want to comment that during that period of time between when we first started talking about annexation and today's date, we have had 3 different finance directors. So that was a challenge in and of itself. Okay, I think the next slides should address, there have been a lot of numbers thrown around, and I'd like to address those. It should address the costs of this annexation in detail. So, based on previous meetings and the feasibility study, we need to address the transfer of reserve. We also have 3 apparatus with financing remaining on them. The current annual payments are $155,000, almost $156,000. The 2 leases were relatively low financing rate at 2.7 and 3.3, and the debt is to be paid off on one of the leases in 2030 and the other in 2034. We should also address strike team revenue. Linda has indicated that they would remit the strike team revenue that is earned on those 2 or 3 vehicles when that occurs, and we anticipate roughly $60,000 a year for that. That is very dependent upon what the fire season is. So, fire season is bad, which is a bad thing. There will probably be more revenue. Fire season is good, less revenue. Also, leave balances must be addressed. Linda has agreed to take on all of the leave balances with the exception of comp time, hard word to say, compensatory time off. That is not offered by Linda Fire. The city offers that, so it's not something that can be transferred. The amount is roughly $50,000, and the staff is proposing that we pay those employees off on termination from the city and hiring by Linda. Okay, so the next slide, I want to explain the cost to the city in its current condition. Based on our previous budgets, we are running an operational cost of roughly $2.75 million. There's, you could say 2.75, you could say 2.8. I'm using 2.75. We also have the lease costs of $156,000, but that is offset by some strike team revenue, which we receive on an annual basis. Depends on the fire season, but roughly around $60,000 for 3 rigs. So the total cost with no annexation to the city is roughly $2.845 million. Does everybody understand that so far?
Brief question. I didn't understand. You said it's 2.75, or we could use another number. I didn't. What does that other number represent?
It's not a precise number, Vice Mayor. It could be 2.8, but I said conservatively it's 2.75.
Gotcha.
Just a minute. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm
Okay.
Just look.
Next slide. This represents year 1 of the post-annexation with the reserve payments and leases. And for this exercise, I used a reserve payment of $300,000. So going through those numbers, the operational costs, we will no longer have operational costs. Those go to zero. The lease costs, based on the staff's proposal, my proposal, is still 155. Strike team revenue, based on discussions with Linda Fire, would be roughly $60,000, offsetting some of the lease costs. The tax share is targeted at $2.4 million. I do want to make a caveat on the tax share in that that figure is going to be dependent upon what tax revenue we generate. So if the tax revenue goes up, Linda's tax revenue goes up, the city's revenue goes up. They both go up. If it goes down, we both suffer. That's just the way the tax sharing works. The reserve payment, we can pick a number, but right now for this exercise I picked $300,000, and I'll have a couple more slides showing cash flows over time, but this is assuming $300,000 over 3 years, roughly. And then we have the leave payout. We will be paying employees their compensatory time at $50,000. So that expense is $2.845. That's the cost for year one annexation to the city. That is the same cost as our current operational cost. That's year one. Next slide. Years 2 and 3, we don't pay the leave payout. So that's a $50,000 difference. The real change happens in year 4 with no reserve payments. So operational costs are at zero. Lease costs are still there at $155. Strike team revenue, $60,000, same as before. And tax revenue estimated at $2.4. But the reserve payment is no longer there on year 4. If we go with a 3-year spread on the reserve payments of $890,000. So the total cost at that point for the city is $2.495, representing a savings of $350,000 a year. Next slide. Nothing really changes until lease payments drop off. So this is a simplified version. The tables I'll show you in a minute are more precise, but at year 23-24, the only thing we have is the tax sharing. The leases will have been paid off. So relative to our current costs, that represents a savings of $445,951. Once again, that's dependent upon the tax share.
To the chair. There is a $50,000 savings, though, in the second and third year, correct?
Correct. The next slide gives the detail and includes what Vice Mayor Buttacavoli asked. So on the left-hand side of this table, you'll see the cost associated with no annexation. On the right-hand side, you'll see the costs associated with annexation, year by year, all the way until we pay the leases off. So our current cost is $2.845, and as you can see over in the very right where it says difference, that's the cost increase or decrease associated with it. So those parentheses mean there is a savings. There has been some discussion about extending this out to 4 or 5 years. I did 4 years, and the next slide represents that. My personal opinion is it may help with cash flows a little bit, but I don't think it makes an appreciable difference regarding savings. So because we front-loaded it for the first year, and we've added $20,000 to that payment, we now have a pay out. We're losing $20,000 over the original cost. But the following years, the savings are greater. It's a pay me now or pay me later thing. Any questions on that so far?
If I might add a comment, for your board to consider. 890 was news to all on the council except the member of LAVCO. It was an absolute surprise to everyone on the council 2 weeks ago. And so there's been a lot of discussion about it, and we understand the roots of it and what have you. Without getting into all of the details, the shock of that has led us to believe that paying it one lump sum is inappropriate. And in fact, the feasibility study allowed for multiple payments, negotiated multiple payments. So this is our pitch.
Okay, next slide. I wanted to point out that though if we kept the service and our lease payments for those vehicles were paid off, our replacement costs do not go away. We will have to buy new equipment if we maintain this service. Our current debt is $156,000 per year, but as the slide shows, we have a 2009 Spartan engine that will be 25 years old by 2034. And we have a 2012 Smeel that'll be 22 years old by 2034. Chief, which one of those is the latter? Smeel? Okay, thank you, Council Member. Okay. An engine costs about $1 million. That's in the mid-range. And a ladder truck, if we're lucky, is about $1.5 million. Is that fair?
About $2 million, $2.5 million.
Okay. So this is probably a low estimate. We would typically be able to finance over 15 years. Looks like 5% is where we're at right roughly now. That would create an additional debt service of $332,000 and a total debt service over the whole period of almost $5 million. That is money that we would have to spend to maintain our fleet. We will no longer have to do that. So those savings that we were talking about are going to increase based on the cost of vehicles. The cost of vehicles have gone up dramatically. Sorry, Chief. As well as the lead times. Lead times are anywhere from 2 to 5 years. Probably close to 5 years on a ladder truck. That means we would have to start ordering this equipment and paying or entering into a contract before 2034. Or we just run the tires off the vehicles, the apparatus, and hope that they last.
Question. So the 3.5 is only for the two vehicles replacement. That wouldn't include anything for any of the other vehicles that we use.
Correct. So, but those are the two oldest. But you might as well just expect that you're going to have a $300,000 payment of some sort forever. Because you got a whole fleet. I did some rough numbers, and it's probably low, but the entire fleet is about $7.5 million to replace. If you take that over 15 years, you're at $500,000 a year. Any questions on the costs? Okay, we'll move on to impact fees. That was a concern. Concern was brought up before yesterday's meeting, and staff attempted to address that. Dan and Mike Lucan and I worked on this. There was concern that we've been telling people that we have no impact fees, which is correct. We've also told people that that's not going to last forever, but that is correct. So what we're proposing today is basically everybody get their entitlements in now. So what we're proposing that is, and this has not been approved by the Linda board, they would have to agree to this, that we're going to give a 6-month grace period to get your initial discretionary land use approval in, an entitlement. That's not a permit. That's before the permit. The examples would be a subdivision map, conditional use permit, plan development permit, site plan and architectural review approvals, or development agreements. The ones that apply to the city primarily are conditional use permits, site plan and architectural review approvals, and development agreements. As an example, the Hyatt Hotel, it has all of the entitlements it needs. It's actually through the permit process, so it's fine. But two others, one is the 3rd and D property, and the other is the community garden property. Both have DDAs associated with them, development and disposition agreements. Those are exempt as well. Any other developer that would like to come in and submit for an entitlement and pay the fees will then be exempt from those permits if the district chooses, agrees with this. I don't want to give developers free pass forever, though. And I don't think that's fair to the district to do so. So, yes, they can submit their preliminary entitlements in 6 months, but then within a year after that, they need to submit a building permit. That keeps them motivated to keep their projects moving. They'll complain because they'll say, city is taking too long, we're at the mercy of the city, so it has to all be sorted out in 18 months. That means they have to have the city's issuance of a building permit in 18 months. That gives anybody who has a notion to build 24 months to get it together and get approval. I think that's fair. If the deadlines are missed, sorry, but you're going to now be subjected to those fees. I also want to clarify, Chief and I have had a lot of discussion about this, the way their impact fees work, their existing impact fees work, they don't typically impact a developer who is not adding square footage. When they add square footage to a building or they build a new building, that's when those impact fees apply. Now, the impact fee language that the district has is much more precise and detailed than I just said, but essentially that's the gist of it. So, as an example, Hotel Marysville was a 5-story building within a specific footprint. Mr. Flores, what was the size, what was the square footage of that? Yeah, roughly. So if somebody builds something there with 20,000 square feet, the impact fee doesn't apply. If they build 25,000 feet, they're going to pay the impact fee for the 5,000 square foot. Any questions on that?
I've got a comment. The tail on development projects is long. We've all seen it. Just look at what's happening with our Hyatt Hotel. It'll happen, but the tail is long. And we've been promoting, part of our promotion is no impact fee. We've been promoting that up and down. And so this addresses that. My suggestion would be to, at first 6 months, make it 12 months, then everything else slip according to that. It gives these developers time. Right now you're dealing with, they've been sold, we've been working them, and part of the pitch has been no impact fees. Now we're going to have to hit someone, we may hit someone who we've been not hustling, but selling based on, in part, a no impact fee. That's a big difference. Because building a home, for example, in Linda, impact fees are $40,000 per rooftop, something like that. And in Marysville, they would not be. Total impact fees, and you're a small portion of it. So I would simply suggest that first 6 months be 12 months. Take account of the very long tail on the sales process, negotiation process on development, City of Marysville. May not make a difference, may not make a dollar's worth of difference. I'm just thinking in terms of credibility with the development community that we. And I could live with the 6. I just think 12's better play.
One of the possibilities would be to exempt those specific projects.
Exempt specific projects.
That we know are in place, basically the 3, and then leave everything the same. Do we know what the square foot impact fee is? A rough number.
Light residential's in the area of about $1.60 a square foot. Light commercials in the $2 and something square foot, and like a heavy commercial is like $2.80 a square foot, and that's $2.80 a square foot in that range, and that's under the current Nexus fee study.
Yeah, that's fine.
Pardon me if I may. I agree. One of the ideas that we talked about, rather than coming up with something like this, Dan?
Sorry, we were discussing
I presume you could put together a list of the prospects that are in play within the reasonable future.
Yes, we have that list available.
And that may be an easier thing to manage than that.
Okay.
Any more questions on impact fees? Those were the major items, I think, of concern, but there are some other items within this MOU that are merits discussion. Cell tower lease, we will retain the revenue from the cell tower located on the property. The fire station, or the Linda Fire District, will take the underlying ownership of the property, but when we do a deed transfer, we will reserve the rights to the cell tower and its revenue. We have always had a concern, and we will continue to have a concern with the cell tower operations. The cell tower folks oftentimes feel that they can do whatever they want, and that is not going to take priority over fire service. So we want to make sure that if there are any new negotiations with cell tower companies, that Linda Fire is considered and has the ability to review that. Do I think that's going to be a problem? Not if we use the language that our city attorney has written for any new cell tower leases. It's very well covered. But I want to acknowledge that the fire operation comes first. And there will be language in those cell tower agreements stating that. So, next slide. Fire inspection and prevention support and joint policies. Now, this is a little bit loose as far as a provision in the MOU, but we felt it was important enough to mention it in the MOU. We have developed, with Chief Hegstrom, a very good team to go out and deal with some of the issues we have with properties in the community. That team is constituted of fire prevention and inspection folks. It's Andrew. Building inspectors, code enforcement personnel, and they focus on blight, fire risk, safety risk, building code issues, and it's been very effective. We want to continue that. We also will want to continue vegetation management. We're burning levees today. So that takes a team of both fire personnel, well, actually three, fire personnel, levee personnel, and city public works staff. We want to continue that. And then, of course, homeland encampment mitigation, we want to continue that, and that's a cooperative effort. All we're saying is that we want to make sure that we're all aligned in those operations, and we continue those operations cooperatively. Next slide. All right. Just some more detail on accrued personnel compensatory time off. I mentioned that district is going to assume all leave balances except for CTO. Those leave balances are sick, vacation, and those will transfer over. We don't want long-standing employees to lose their time. But, as mentioned, the district does not have compensatory time off, CTO, and they do not desire to start that within their organization. They offer some other benefits that are more beneficial than ours, and it seems to be a fair trade-off to the employees. So we will pay that out to the employees upon their last paycheck. That cost is estimated at approximately $50,000. And I want to say something else. I think we got some fire staff here. They've been very helpful in burning some of that time down rather than using their other leave balances, and have dropped that number significantly. So thank you, guys. Okay, so to summarize, from a financial perspective, no annexation. Our annual operating cost is $2.75 million. We will still have the responsibility for the apparatus debt, whether we transfer everything or not, whether the annexation occurs or not, but that's a done deal. And we would have future responsibility for apparatus replacement. That can be ongoing, conservatively about $300,000. With the annexation, our tax share that we're sharing is 2.4 based on I believe it's the 24-25 revenue estimates. The proposal is for $890,000 in reserve contribution to be paid over multiple years. And I showed you two scenarios, 3 and 4. The existing apparatus debt will be retained by the city until paid off but we will receive the offsetting strike team revenue for the vehicles. Future apparatus replacement responsibility going to be assumed by Linda Fire. And I would say, good luck, Chief. But frankly, they have a bit of an advantage based on my fleet experience. The larger the fleet, the less reserves you need proportionally, so they won't have to replace at as an aggressive pace as we do. There are a whole bunch of general provisions that I'm not going to go over in detail. Those are the typical provisions in this type of agreement that our attorney would typically want to see. And so they are in that agreement as well. I do want to say, I got an email from our attorney, and there are a couple of form issues in the two MOUs, the tax sharing and the two agreements, the tax sharing agreement and the MOU agreement, that he would like us to fix. The proposed action today includes the ability for us to make those kind of changes with Brant's approval, so Brant would bless those. Brant has already given me the language, but it was too late to put it in this package. There are two more items. One we talked about yesterday, the HR director. That is a discussion for the budget, and I would anticipate that agreement, if there is an agreement, to be negotiated separately. And then we still have to address the coordination of shop activities due to the fact that we're splitting up the shop and have two mechanics, and one mechanic works for Linda and one works for the city. That agreement has been discussed, and I believe we're going to have a meeting this week next week, maybe, soon, to discuss that. And that's an agreement we really need to flesh out with the people who are going to have to coordinate that, the mechanics and the managers that would be involved in making sure that equipment repairs and maintenance are prioritized correctly, because we have a fire department and we have a police department that have priority needs, and then we have a whole bunch of public works equipment. Those types of activities may sound simple, but it takes a very coordinated effort day to day to make sure that we are servicing the correct pieces of equipment so that our public safety and public works folks have it when they need it. That will be a separate agreement. So that will be coming. Okay. Staff believes that these agreements fairly implement the annexation previously approved by the city and the Linda Fire Protection District, also approved by Yuba County and LAFCO. The agreements provide, in my opinion, practical framework for the July 1st transition, and I do think it balances the interests of both parties. With that, I was going to turn it over to Chief Hegstrom. I think he may have a couple of words to say.
Jim, thank you very much for this very comprehensive presentation and discussing these items that we've been working on the last year and a half. I definitely just want to make comment on how collaborative staff have been and how hard we've worked on this annexation and this collaboration between the two entities. I speak on behalf as the fire chief, but also the board of directors who are here today, and also staff that are sitting in this audience that have a lot of interest and a lot of anxiety on the future of what we're trying to accomplish. I do want to tell the council that we have already seen a huge increase in the level of service we're providing to the communities we serve. We've already started dropping boundaries, moving engines effectively, and moving them in and out of the city, moving them from the district to this side, and really providing a much higher level of service. The call volume is not decreasing, so there's a need, and this really helps us with being able to accomplish that need and providing to the constituents. I do want to remind the council that there's been numerous public comment sessions where the public has been able to approach both LAFCO, this governing body, our governing body, the Board of Supervisors to oppose this or have opposition or support, and we have not had one constituent that I'm aware of that has openly come to a meeting and opposed this collaboration and what we're trying to accomplish. I still think this is very forward-leaning and very good for Yuba County. As we talked about in the beginning, we have 9 fire districts in Yuba County, or did have 9 fire districts, and this would now consolidate 2 of them and help with that greater effort. So I do say today that I think this is very good for Yuba County. I think this is a very, very reasonable agreement that we're trying to work on and make sure that it's cost neutral for both entities. And so I just again thank you for your consideration and open for any questions from the council.
Questions or comments? Chief, I'm very much in favor of this reorganization, annexation, merger, whatever you want to call it. There have been a couple surprises along the way, but they've been worked through. Long term, this is good for Linda. I think it's good for Marysville, and I think it's good for the region. Maybe sets an example for some future transactions, who knows? And I very much admire your leadership. I haven't been able to meet much of your team, but if you represent them, they've got to be great. Happy this is coming to an end.
Through the chair, again, I guess I'm looking for a little clarification, Mayor. We're looking to adopt a motion on acceptance of the MOU, or are we going to, I mean, I'm prepared to make a motion to accept.
Well, then make it.
Thank you.
Okay, just
I was going to paraphrase with a couple of things that we have inside there, but go ahead, Chief.
okay. Currently, the MOU has the reserve payment structure over 4 years.
Right.
Front-loaded at $320,000.
Agreed.
And 200, and I think it's 170.
Yes, that's what I saw.
So I just want everybody to be clear on that.
Thank you. I was going to do that. The 4-year payment plan that was presented, and also take into consideration Mayor Branscom's suggestion about the impact fees as given to our Assistant City Manager for working off of that list for the exemptions.
Okay. I want to make sure we have exactly which properties and we're talking about if we're going to do that.
Since we don't have that in front of us right here for us to consider, then I go back to what has originally been written and presented to this council at a 6-month window.
I think we can leave it. Dan, we can go with that. We can go with it as written. Will that capture most of the opportunities?
I believe it would, yes.
There we go.
Thank you, Mayor. So then that is my motion, has been presented by staff, that we accept this MOU and move forward.
We have a motion.
Can I add something to that? To ensure that we have the language by council inserted prior to.
I believe it's already been affirmed that it is in there.
It's confirmed, but it's not in the MOU.
So I'm going to speak for Brent, but make a friendly amendment, just stating that
Okay.
that needs to be.
Okay.
Okay.
I will
Friendly
accept a
amendment.
friendly amendment from Councilman.
So received.
Councilmember Morales.
We have a second. And second.
First, I want to make, I will second, but I want to make a comment. This is fantastic.
Mayor.
I think if we would have had this 2 months ago, the anxiety level would have been way down. But you guys did a great job on this. And I will second that motion.
Moved and seconded with the friendly amendment. All in favor? Let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Rollins?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilchrist?
Absolutely.
Councilmember Hudson?
Most definitely, yes.
Vice Mayor Buttigieg?
Yes.
And Mayor Branscom.
Aye makes 5. Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
That's a big deal. All right. Congratulations, Chief, City Manager, staff. Let's see. I think we're done. Next regular meeting, Marysville City Council will be Tuesday, July 7th, 6 p.m. We're adjourned.
Support, sponsor, help keep the community aware with Yuba-Sutter.LIVE.